said, feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat or as we're going. If you have specific questions, feel free to interrupt us and we'd be happy to go back and cover what your question is. So to go ahead and get started, we are going to start off with some campus housing questions that have been submitted. So we have Miss Morgan Blair on the call with us, and she works with our campus housing team, and she's going to cover a couple of things. We've had questions submitted such as what the move-in process looks like, timelines for move-in, what safety looks like at campus housing, how to choose a residence hall without an LLC, what are some dimensions of the dorm rooms, specific questions such as plug-ins, height under the beds, if they need lamps or a nightstand, how to connect students to help them find roommates. What do students do if they have a problem with their roommate? Are the beds first come, first serve, or are they assigned? So just very general questions, and I'm sure that we'll run into some more as we get started. But Morgan, if you just want to go ahead and start introducing us to a little bit more about what the campus housing aspect looks like for our new cards.
Yeah, so I am going to share my screen, and I figured I would start with some room selection things, and then we'll move into some move-in things. So let me know if I need to, I was Googling Millersburg, figuring out where everyone's from. I had to look up Independence too. Okay, so is that fine for everyone? Mm-hmm. So we're on the housing homepage, so louisville.edu/housing. And I manage this webpage, so I try to put all of the information we communicate, or most of it, in from emails. I try to put it on here, and then also put it on our social media. So I hope you all are following us on Facebook, but I'll put the URL in there. But generally for room selection, I made a page, and it is the housing application page. You can get there from our main homepage, and there's a big timeline here. So there's different groups of students selecting at different times, and this is based on whether you are a first-year student or a returning student, a transfer student, or if you're joining an LLC. So there's different people choosing at different times, but the main difference in groups for first-year students is based on when you applied for housing. So if you applied for housing by the priority deadline, which was April 1st, then your student would have received an email that said, hey, you have two options. You can do early access room selection, and that means that you can select, if you want, go ahead and select in any free space in UTA, Betty, or Unitas. So a lot of students did do that because, I think financial considerations, or so just for security, they wanted to go ahead and get a space. And so they did that. But if you didn't want to do that and you applied by April 1st, then you will be getting an email from us in late May, so later this month, and it will have a priority room selection date and time. So it will basically be a date and time that starts on, starting on or after June 1st at 10 a.m. And then during that priority room selection window, which will be for about a week, you'll be able to go in and select a space. So if you applied after April 1st, you'll also get an email from us, but it won't have a date and time. It'll just say, hey, you get to do general room selection, and that opens June 8th at 10 a.m. And we'll send a few reminder emails to the students as well, and we'll post on our social media. But I know we'll have plenty of spaces available, and I wanted to give you a little glimpse as parents, because I know the housing portal, which is where everything takes place, is pretty, it's for students, and parents don't get to see it a lot of times. So I want to show you a little bit of what room selection will look like. So I'm going to use a test ID. And so students, whenever they go to log into the housing portal from the housing homepage, most students who already completed the housing application, they will just select, yes, I've made a housing profile before, get me into the portal. So you'll click yes. And right now, this test ID I'm using is configured so that it thinks I'm like a engineering LLC student. So I thought that's a good example, though, to show that, availability looks different based on, if you're a first-year student, or if you're upper level, or if you're in a certain LLC. So I'll go in here during room selection, and then I will go to assign. I'll make my assignment for fall 2021. Basically, every piece of information that we have will be in here, so you can review it, and you can sit with your student and review it too. Just lots of information about what to expect. So read that. Next step. Here's just an example of some things. And then you can have two different views. You can view a table view, which scares me because I'm very visual.
I'm on my call here.
Oh, I thought someone was talking. Okay, so I don't do this, but some people, like the neuroscience major student, might want to look at the table view. They might like numbers more. I'm an English major. I like photos and images. So I'm gonna do the map view, and then I can see any available space to me on campus. And the reason I say to me is because a lot of first-year students will go in here and they won't see University Point or Cardinal Town. And that's because those are for upper level students, or maybe someone in like me right now in the engineering LLC, I might say, wait a second, why can't I see all the spaces on campus? Well, it's because this is showing me the LLC spaces. So, as a first year, you'll see most of these halls green. And if it's not green, that just means at that time, nothing's available, but availability changes because students cancel, do room changes, different things. So don't, if you have your heart set on a certain hall like Kerr's, then you can keep checking back to see if it turns green. So right now I'm going to go to Community Park since it's green for me. Then I can see by floor. So what am I interested in? Do I want to live on the first floor? Some students have a preference. They want to live on the top floor. And you can see what's green here. You'll click that. Then I can go by section of a floor if I want, all the way down to the room. So right now on this wing of the hall, everything is taken. But I see something here, and there is one bed that's green. So I want to click on this room first. And this kind of gets into the roommate question. In a second, because maybe it didn't do it just now. But basically, when I click a bed, well, that's a good example. You saw me clicking a billion times on that room. And so some students do that and they email us and say, I can't choose anything, and you have to click right on that little bed icon is why. Sorry, lost my spot. Somewhere else. I'm going to click on the little bed that's green. It will lock this for me for 10 minutes, and you'll have a timer here, so you don't have to rush. Go ahead and read everything. You will be able to see a review what you're choosing, essentially. Next step, you can review your bed space booking summary. That will tell you, what kind of room you're selecting into. These are the license agreement dates, so they're not necessarily the actual move-in date, and we'll get into move-in in a minute. But you'll affirm that you know about our cancellation policy, and essentially that is, if you're going to cancel an assignment, you need to do it within a 5 business day window of receiving your assignment notification, and you'll get your assignment notification as soon as you assign to your space here in the system and click finish. So that is room selection basically in a nutshell. I wanted to pause and see if anyone has questions about that first, and I can show you how to review roommate details too.
Morgan, can you also talk a little bit about LLCs and TCs and how students can learn a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so for LLCs and TCs, these are communities in most of our residence halls, not all of them. Most of them are geared towards first-year students, but some of them are also available to second-year students and to upper-level students. And if you go to our homepage and you click on this graphic here, you can see them all based on if it's living learning or themed. And living learning just means there's some kind of required course involved. So you would live with a group of students, usually with the same major, in the same section of a hall, and then you would take a certain class together. So an example of a living learning community is engineering. If you click on that, here's a little snapshot of who it's in partnership with. So all of them are in partnership between campus housing and some school or office at U of L. And you can see all of that here, and then you can see where's its location. Like this one is for first years and second years, and then who the advisor is. And the advisor is the person who is either a faculty or staff, and they will be designing different programs and events for the students. And they will be the person involved in making the decision of whether you're approved or you're not approved. And this one is for engineering students. Something I'm really excited about, and I keep talking about because I was big into international travel and I lived abroad for a few years, is the Global Village. So Global Village is a good example of a themed community. There isn't a required course component, but it's based on like a theme of interest. So for Global Village, that is for students who are just interested in getting involved in some way in international exchange or building like an awareness of global cultures. So the idea is that international students and domestic students like myself, we would live together, do different programs together. The advisors are from the Study Abroad Office and then from the International Student and Scholar Services Office. And it's just a great way to have support early on. Have, when you get to U of L, like I was saying, I'm from a small town, you can feel kind of like lost and like, what do I do? This is a way to have your little niche and honestly, a one-on-one. That's the biggest thing for me, is having a one-on-one relationship early on with a staff or faculty here. So essentially, if you want to apply for one of these, you can either do it at the same time that you apply for housing, and it's on the housing application, or if you've already applied for housing or you want to wait before you do this kind of decision, then you can apply separately. We have an LLC application, and it's right here under LLC TC here. And you can choose your top 3 preferences. And right now, a perk of joining is if you are approved by an advisor, you can just wait 1 business day after getting your approval email and go back in and select your space early. So you wouldn't have to wait until June. But that will be open all summer. So you don't have to commit right now to that if you're thinking about one of those. Okay, so I said a lot. Anything else on room selection? Any questions in the chat I'm not looking at?
Just if you could talk a little bit about roommates.
Oh yeah. So for roommates, I'll let Katie talk a little bit more later about Facebook Campus, because that is something that I would highly recommend anyone with a U of L email address to join, a student. That's a good way to go ahead and start, getting a feel of who's going to be living in my hall or who's in my same grade level in college here, or even LLCs they have groups in Facebook Campus, but we don't get involved with matching students for living together, because we just want this to be as independent of a process as it can be. But we definitely want to support that. So what we did on the housing application is we had these questions, and they're called lifestyle preference questions. And I'll show you an example of a few of them. When you do the housing application, you can answer these questions. And right here, so just basic generic things. Do you smoke? Do you go to bed early? Do you wake up early? All that stuff. You can answer those, and you can indicate on the application whether or not you want those to be viewed publicly by anyone in this system. And you can also indicate whether you want your name or your email address to be shared. So a lot of students, what they do honestly, a lot of students, they don't share the email, but they share their name. So if that's the case and you want to contact a student, you can go into Outlook or your U of L email account, look them up in the address book feature, and you can find anyone at U of L's email address that way, and you can contact them yourself. You can also, if you just want to, if there's some essentials you care about, like these things, you can hover over the bed space that's taken during room selection, and you can see, okay, the person in this red space, they're already living there. What are their answers to these things? And if they have their email address, you can see it there and you can contact them. And then at the end of the day, after you do all of that, if you forget or you want to look up the person again, you can go to my account, scroll down, choose a date in, I always choose a September date, but a date in the fall, and you'll click preview. And since this is a test account, you can't see anything, but typically students will be able to see here all the information that the roommate consented to sharing. And if a space is still vacant, it will say vacant. So you can review all of that here.
Okay. Morgan, that was great. We're going to pivot and talk about Facebook Campus a little bit and bounce around a little bit.
Okay.
That way, as people are sitting here letting this information digest, if they do have more questions about campus housing, they can put them in the chat and we can refer back. So as Morgan mentioned, we have a great program here at U of L called Facebook Campus, and I am the staff member that runs it. So we were given a unique opportunity. Our president, Neely Beneputi, met with some representatives from Facebook when she first started here and was asked if we would like to be involved in a pilot program. And she said, absolutely. So we are one of 30 public and private universities that have been given this opportunity to create a unique virtual online community for our students. So it is a student-only space. There's no faculty and staff in there other than myself. So the students really can make it their own. They can ask questions that they may not feel comfortable asking in person, or maybe they don't know where to go, or they want advice on, where should I live? What are your thoughts on living here? What do you think about this professor or this class? Have you taken it before? So it's a great opportunity for especially our new students to connect with students who have been there and done that. To log in, all students have to do is go to facebook.com/campus. And they'll sign up using their U of L email address. It'll ask a few general questions: your hometown, your interest, your major, classes if they've already registered. If not, that can be added in later, and where they're living on campus. And what the profile does is it connects them with other students who may be also living in the same residence hall, taking the same classes, or have similar interests, or live in the same hometown and maybe you just didn't know it. So it's a great opportunity for our students to network with other University of Louisville students. I would highly recommend our students get on there. As Morgan mentioned, we do have a group in there for every residence hall, every themed community, and every living learning community. So it's a great space for our students to connect. Okay, we're gonna pivot over and talk to our dining team here to learn a little bit more about meal plan options, how we can ensure our students are receiving proper nutrition, when does their meal plan become active, how can they use it, is it available for delivery services like DoorDash and Grubhub, and what are some dining options for late nights and weekends?
Hello, everyone. I think I put it in the chat, but my name's Chris Cowan. I am the marketing coordinator for U of L Dining. I help first-year students and students who are returning to U of L, sophomore, juniors, and seniors, and transfers, all find the perfect meal plan for them because everyone is different. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to try to share my screen here if it'll let me. Sorry, I have a lovely internet at my apartment here. It's super fast, good old Spectrum. Alrighty, so can everyone see my screen here?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So first thing I'm just going to show everyone here is the Ville Grill is our residential dining hall. It is on the west end of campus, and we actually just completed a full renovation on the Ville Grill. There is now a second floor. The second floor has several TVs up there, floor-to-ceiling glass windows for students to be able to overlook campus. A lot of students, we opened it up in the spring of this year for this semester, and a lot of students really enjoyed going up there, being able to sit with their friends and watch some TV. During finals, we had a lot of students that were still here. The ones that were coming eating with us at the Ville Grill, they would go upstairs and they'd bring their stuff and study while they were up there. So it was a really cool addition that we added there. And then also we have added 3 new stations to the Ville Grill. So the Ville Grill has 10 stations throughout. All are on the first floor. The brand new stations that we added, one is called the Smokehouse. It is a station that serves smoked meats for lunch and for dinner. It comes with a protein and a side for every meal. And then we have Conscious Kitchen. Conscious Kitchen is our new allergen-free and worry zone. So students who have any dietary restrictions with the top 8 allergens, we are able to make that menu over there, exclude those. And for Trattoria, that is our pizza and pasta station. And then for any students that are incoming that are vegan or vegetarian, we do have a full vegan station that serves food for lunch and dinner, and it is called Heirloom there. I know one of the questions that you had shared with me there, Katie, was about meal plans. So our meal plans are set up where you have meal swipes and you have flex points on your account. So a meal swipe is, you can use one meal swipe to get into the Ville Grill that I just talked about there. And that's one swipe students can get in and they can eat all they want. It's an all you care to eat dining facility. You can also use a meal swipe to go to any of our retail locations on campus. So any other location except for Starbucks has what is called meal swipe combos. So those combos are entree, side, and a drink, all for a swipe. All of our combos are either at the register with a sign at each one of our registers, or they are noted on our menu boards. Also, you can see them on our website. Our website is louisville.edu/dining. You can see all of those options there. And then you can also be able to have your student go ahead and plan out what it is they might want to eat or different meals that they would want to get while living here with us. You also have flex points on your account. So flex points are just like money on a gift card. So it's dollar for dollar value. But the cool thing about flex points is when you use them on campus at our dining locations, you can use flex points at all of our dining locations on campus. Those flex points, we don't charge sales tax when you use them, so you're saving 6%. So if the menu says that the item is $5.25, that's all that the student pays. If you want to add more flex points to the account, if the student starts running low, you're more than welcome to. We have a bonus structure that allows students where if they add $100 to $199, they get 10% back for free into a bonus account. If they add $200 to $299, they get 20% back into a bonus account. And if they add $300 or more, they get 25% back to a bonus account. So the way that works is if a student added $100, the card that they used, debit or credit card, to pay for it is only charged the $100. We, as dining, then on the back end, give the student 10 additional flex points to be added to their bonus flex point account. So it's a separate account from the regular flex points. They will be able to use those 10 extra points when the 100 that they added goes all the way down to 0. And then those 10 will kick in and start being able to be used. Flex points can be added year round. We followed the academic calendar. Meal plans there is no meal plan selection during the summer for anyone that takes summer classes, but students can add flex points to their account, and the incentive that I just talked about is year round as well. So they can get that bonus during the summer. So if your student adds any flex points during the summer, And let's say they added 100, but they didn't use all of them. So at the end of the summer, it would roll over and add on to whatever meal plan your student selected for the fall semester. At the end of the fall semester, if there are still flex points, the flex points will roll over to whichever selection your student picks for the spring semester. At the end of the spring semester, everything goes back to zero. So the students have to use everything by the end of the spring semester. And so each semester, students select their meal plan. And so at the beginning of each semester and at the end of each semester, myself and I have some student interns that work with me. They will be on campus with us and we'll be able to be tabling. We table out in the Student Activity Center. We table over in the Ville Grill. We'll table outside on campus during nice days. And we'll have our table set up with some prizes and meal plan information to help students pick their meal plan for the semester, or at the end of the semester, we'll help them pick it for the upcoming semester. What you see here on the screen, this is all of our meal plan options. And I'm going to back up one slide here for you all. This here is how our meal plans are broken down. So any student that is living on campus, undergraduate or graduate, or any undergraduate commuters that are taking at least 9 credit hours, so a full-time student taking at least 9 credit hours on the main Belknap campus, is required to have a meal plan per the university's rule. So the way that this works is if your student falls in that category of being required to have a meal plan, then we look over here on the right side of the screen where it says traditional, apartment, and commuter. Each one of these housing assignments lets the student know what are their meal plan options to select from. Traditional halls are Community Park, Kerrs, Louisville, Miller, Threcold, and Unitas. Apartment plans, Betty, U Point, and University Tower apartments. And then commuter plans are anyone that lives at home, their own apartment, or if they live in one of the affiliated apartments that are listed here. And I'll go back to this slide here about our meal plans. So if you notice, there are colored dots where it says availability. That represents what we just looked at, traditional, apartment, and commuter. And so our all access plans, they do basically the exact same thing. The only difference is the amount of flex points that the student gets. So the all access plan gets your student unlimited meal swipes into the Ville Grill for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It also gets them the flex points that we discussed. So the all access plan is 175. The all access plus is 150 extra with 325 total. Both of the all access plans come with guest meals. Those guest meals can be used for when you all as parents come and visit them, or any family members come down to visit them. They can use those 10 guest swipes to get into the Ville Grill, and you don't have to pay a single thing. They just tell the cashier they want to use the guest swipe. They also receive 7 additional meal swipes that they can use at our retail locations to get those meal swipe combos that I was talking about. That number 7 resets to the number 7 every single Monday morning. The card office handles that. And so if the student ever notices that it didn't get switched over, they would contact the card office to make sure that it was reset. And so those 7 swipes, again, they can go use that to get the retail. That doesn't add on. So if they only use, 3 of them, they don't get to add the extra 4 that are remaining to the 7 for the next week. It just resets to the number 7. So a lot of students that are on our all access plans will usually use like 1 a day to be able to go to like Chick-fil-A, or we have a twisted taco that is similar to like a Chipotle or a Qdoba. We have a ton of locations that students enjoy going to. So that's definitely a way that they split up with the all access plans. And then the next couple plans that are listed, so the 135, the 100, and the 60 plan are what we refer to as block plans, or basically they have meal swipes and flex points, but they don't have anything unlimited like the all access plans do. So the 135 plan has 135 meal swipes for the whole semester, 410 flex points. The 100 plan is 100 meal swipes with 495 flex points. And the 60 plan is 60 meal swipes with 495 flex points. And so the average meals per week column lets you see on average if your student used the whichever plan they were on, 135, 100, or 60, it will show them there what the average meals per week they would get for the full 16-week semester. And this helps a lot of students and parents when we're talking to them find out, does your student eat, 2 full meals, 3 full meals? Are they more of a snacker? Do they have any dietary restrictions that we must work around? And so what we're able to do is work with you all as the parents to make sure that we're getting them the right meal plan, because at the end of the day, we don't want you guys to be getting those constant phone calls of, hey, I'm out of my meal plan, I can't eat. That's the last thing that we want to have happen. So we want to make sure that we can get the right fit for your student. The green dots, if you notice, take up every meal plan. So commuters are technically allowed to select any meal plan of their choosing. Most commuters will stay between the 75 plan, the 50 plan, or our base flex. A majority of our commuters are on the base flex plan. The base flex plan and the apartment flex plan are the only 2 meal plans that we offer that are flex points only, so they have no meal swipes. And then the 75 and the 50 plan, it just helps students who are commuting. So if your student doesn't come to campus but only 2 to 3 times a week, then maybe the 50 plan would be better for them, so they had both meal swipes and flex points. If they're here every day, maybe the 75 is better for them. But like I said, a lot of students will be on the base flex. The stars here represent what the standard plan is. So the way that the system is currently set up for the card office, if your student does not select a meal plan with us during our tabling time, or if they don't go onto the portal themselves and log in and select their meal plan, it will default them to the starred meal plan that you see here based on where they are living for that semester. So anyone living in traditional would be defaulted to the all access plan. The apartment plans, you would be defaulted to the 100, and then the commuter plans would be the base flex. This is not locked in. It is just what the system puts in if the student meets the requirement of either living on campus or taking 9 hours, at least on the Belknap campus, of their full-time hours. Every semester, the meal plan gets selected. So we'll be, like I said, we'll be out on campus being able to help your students. I think one of the questions that was asked was asking us about if we knew when the meal plans would be activated. I spoke with the card office, and they will be activated when your student arrives on campus for move-in. So they'll be able to go ahead and start using their meal plan on move-in day at any of the dining locations that are open at the time. I know I said quite a bit right there about meal plans, so I will take a pause, and I can't see the chat right now, but if there are any questions, if Katie, you don't mind, just let me know what those are, or if we're good to continue on.
Yep, we've got 2 for you. So the first is there only one dining hall for all students on campus?
Yes, so the Ville Grill is currently our only dining hall on campus, and then the rest of our dining locations are retail locations, and we have 3 pod convenience stores that serve, they've got everything in there from like snacks and drinks, to we have one over in University Tower Apartments that is actually our largest one, and it has toiletries and a freezer section, medicine, milk, eggs, bacon. I mean, you name it, it's got it in there. And so we have a little bit of everything on campus, but yes, our only dining hall is the Ville Grill currently.
And then we've got another question. How many flex points is the average drink at Starbucks, etc.?
Oh, wow. It depends on what size you're getting. I want to say that the average grande beverage, I think, is like $4 to $5. But I don't know that off the, that's me just trying to remember. I bought one right before I left the other day. So I think that was around what it was. But it varies based on what the drink is. Starbucks pricing is set with Starbucks Corporation to us. So we actually don't have control over changing any of that or setting any of that up.
And then we have one more question. What about late night dining options?
Yeah. So currently our hours of operation for the fall semester have not been finalized. There is a committee of representatives from the university and from dining and student government that get together and discuss the hours for each semester. And once those are finalized, we will have those on our website. Again, that's louisville.edu/dining. I'll put that in the chat here in just a second. For us, this fall, we are anticipating it to be back to a normal semester. So we will have dining locations staying open much later. Currently, we have Twisted Taco that is open till midnight most nights, and I think it's 11 o'clock other nights. We are also working with the university on some new fun things for this fall semester. And for those, you'll definitely want to follow us or have your student follow us on social media. It's at U of L Dining. We're going to be posting teasers and some kind of updated prize giveaways and stuff to kind of announce some of this as it unfolds. But we definitely will have, we're fingers crossed that we believe it will be a normal semester for the fall semester and we'll have full dining hours again.
And what I hope you hear as well is like, yes, there's one key main dining facility, but there are restaurants spread throughout the whole campus with hours open at all parts of the day, inside the library, inside the student center, all kinds of different restaurants. So the spread is all around. There we go. That good visual there, Chris. So you all can definitely feel confident and comfortable that your students can connect all across campus at various hours.
Absolutely. Thank you, Glenn. Yeah. I apologize. I wasn't paying attention to switch to this, but here is our map for campus dining for all of our dining locations that we currently had for the spring semester. So as you can see, there are dining locations all throughout campus. I personally walked each one of the dining locations. I started walking from the Student Activity Center to see how long it would take me to get to different dining locations. And I did the same thing from the west side where we have several of our residence halls over there. And I'm a bigger guy, a little bit bigger than most people. But it took me about 7 minutes to walk to most dining locations. Definitely something that we wanted to try to get a little bit better for you guys. So that way, students are leaving class, they're going through. There is definitely something that they can get to pretty quickly and be able to get themselves something to eat for sure.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Chris. That was really, really great. Since we talked a little bit about, housing expenses and meal plans, I think it's a good time for us to pivot over to some financial aid. So we've got Mike here with us from financial aid. He's going to talk to us a little bit about loan options, scholarships, tuition in general, and Metro College.
Evening, everybody. Some of you may have already seen me on some of our other virtual presentations. If you haven't, I encourage you to go to our admissions homepage. We've got about 7 other sessions being offered throughout the month of May and June, just to give you some perspective of what we talk about in those sessions. For example, probably later this week, early next week, you're going to be getting, most students, anybody who's been admitted to the institution and submitted their deposit, they and their parents are going to get a financial aid FAQ night. And literally it's just going to be a hour-plus long session with myself and a few other staff members where you can ask us any financial aid question, just kind of like what we're doing tonight, and we're going to give you a response. There's other sessions where we have a session called Set Up for Success, where we talk about your KEYS awards, your how loans work, making smart decisions about are we the right financial institution for you? Academically, we hope we are, but financially, are we the right decision? So look for those. Those are on the admissions homepage. You probably got those invitations. We're also doing a special one on July 15th. I realize that's a little further away, but that particular evening, we will have the head of the bursar's office, our billing office, give a presentation of how to read the bill, how to make sure that you're understanding how to read the bill, how does that interact with financial aid, how to set up the payment plans, when are the due dates for the upcoming year, and so forth. And then I think on, Morgan's going to shake her head yes or no, I think it's August 2nd. I think it's that first Monday. We're doing a joint session with housing about 3 weeks before move-in, just to say, are you ready to move into housing financially? Have you made sure that you're aware of what your bill is, and then have you worked with the bursar's office to set up the payment plan? Have you got all of your financial aid set up? So we acknowledge that financial aid has a lot of questions and a lot of moving parts. And we offer all of these different sessions, and we invite you to talk to us because we want to make sure that in August, we're the last office you want to talk to. We don't want to have you outside of our office with lines, waiting on a phone call, waiting on an email. We want to make sure that your questions are answered now throughout the summer, and you're not even dealing or thinking about us in July. So with that in mind, I'm just going to take a quick moment to pause and share my screen. I don't have a PowerPoint or presentation. I primarily just work off the web. So give me 1 second here. I think that should be it. All right, so I'm going to wait for Katie just to say yes, so I'm seeing your screen. Yeah, okay. So this is our homepage, financial aid, louisville.edu/financial aid. So our financial aid website, some people kind of tell us every once in a while, you have too much information on your website. And frankly, that's a good thing. So the reality is that we want to make sure that if you have a question about how do I process a loan, you can click on loans. You can see that there's a student loan, there's a parent loan, and you can say, well, I want to understand more about a student loan. So there's a paragraph about a student loan. There's the government. Anywhere where you see a red link, that takes you to another website. So that's going to take you to the Department of Education website that tells you all about student loans. And then it's literally going to walk you through step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, how to process a loan. Same thing for if we just go back and we look at our Parent Plus loans. It's going to tell you what is a Parent Plus loan, and it's going to give you screenshots of when you go to the Department of Education website. What is it going to look and feel like? So that's kind of an example of how does financial aid, how does our website work? Another good example of that is our start to finish. So that's going to give you a step 1, file a FAFSA. Step 6, what happens if you're attending less than half time? When my aid disperses my bill. So each one of those websites are set up just to give you a general overview of how things work. One last one that I'm going to touch on is our verification pages. So if you're up here, this kind of gives you your overall headings. Verification is a unique process that the government selects about 30% of the student population, where you file a FAFSA, but you may have to submit some additional household information or tax information. And again, we give you what is verification? How do you complete it? What are the due dates? And then there's other tools over here to the side that basically says start to finish, step 1, step 2, exactly how do you do it? Well, how do I complete the data retrieval tool? Okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's a little bit about our website. So I mentioned to you earlier the virtual presentations. So again, if you go to louisville.edu/financial aid, louisville.edu/admissions visit, you can scroll through here and there's multiple presentations where you can log in and register for different kinds of events. For example, if you click on admitted students, then it's going to tell you, and you can see how popular financial aid is. These are all the sessions that we're offering through the month of May and June. We're going to actually add a few more, but these are the ones that you can actually register for now. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen, come back to the presentation, because I can see that we might have come back to the chat. I don't see any questions yet. So that's kind of a very general overview of financial aid. So with that in mind, in terms of some other hot topics that we tend to be the hub of information for, Metro College, I know Katie asked me to speak to that a little bit. So for those of you who are from the Louisville area, you know how important UPS is to our community. If you're outside of the Louisville area, haven't been around Louisville in a 50-mile radius, I think somebody's from Oregon. So UPS, literally 5 miles down the road from campus, is the largest international UPS hub in the world. Over 2,000 students a year work at UPS. You are a UPS employee. You get paid UPS salary. You get UPS union benefits. But guess what? You also get your in-state portion of your tuition paid for. It's not for everybody. I'll be very honest about that. You are working, so there's a relationship of you have to give something to get something. But if you have a job right now as a high school student, if you're plugging in 20 hours a week and working on your academics, working on your sports, so on and so forth, you can juggle this. Okay, it's a great opportunity. But at the same time, if you go to metro-college.com, you can go on there and visit some videos and kind of see the pros and cons. And they are videos, they're commercials. Okay, they're promoting their own product or their opportunity. But it's a great way to kind of learn about how to be a UPS employee and get your tuition paid for. I also, when I bring up UPS, I also bring up there's other work opportunities. Right now, I know a lot of students are graduating and thinking about a summer job. I always encourage students to go to the HR website of Starbucks. We've already talked about Starbucks, but I'll come back to Starbucks in a second. But Chipotle, Home Depot, Lowe's, McDonald's, Kroger's, all of those companies, if you go to their HR website, they all offer some form of tuition remission where you can, work for them for 60 days, 90 days. And at the end of it, you can potentially qualify for up to anywhere between $1,000 to $3,500. And so the great benefit about that is that you're going to spend your summer training at the Kroger's, the Home Depot in your local, backyard. Come to Louisville, and they actually have a lot of transfer opportunities where why are they going to hire somebody brand new in Louisville when you've already had 3 months of training? No, come on over and work for our store. The one thing I joke about Starbucks, though, is that this is the reason why you want to make sure that you're reading HR benefit websites and kind of starting to look at the fine print, is that their tuition remission, it's only good for the online program at Arizona State University. So you got to realize that you got to read the fine print and make sure what you're getting yourself into and what you're committing yourself. So do you recommend student to work off campus during the first semester? So I'll let anybody else kind of join and give their perspective about this. I'll give you my perspective. So I encourage students to work on campus, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to work a federal work study position. You can work anywhere on campus. There's actually over 2,000 student workers on campus. And I'm kind of looking at my screen now, and I'm looking at Glenn and saying, yes, he's got student workers that work in the Student Activity Center. Morgan has hundreds of students working in housing as desk assistants, as IT assistants, the number of positions out there, it's unlimited. There's lots of jobs at the library in terms of just directing traffic, but here's the reason you want to work on campus versus off campus. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying that there's a difference. When you work on campus, students have a higher GPA, a higher retention rate, meaning they're coming back semester after semester. They have a higher GPA. Why is that? Because if I'm a decent supervisor, and I think that I sometimes am, I'm talking to Johnny every day, and Johnny's going to be saying, Mike, I'm stressed out. I'm worried about this test that I've got. You know what, Johnny, what we're doing in the financial aid office is not rocket science. We'll cover the desk with somebody else, go to the library and study the rest of the day and make up your hours next week. Okay. Or Johnny comes to me and says, Mike, I'm bombing this class. I'm going to quit. I'm leaving. no, Johnny, give me 1 minute. I'm going to call my buddy Jeff over in the Reach Center, our academic tutoring center, and say, Jeff, I'm bringing Johnny over today. And Glenn, Morgan, Katie, I can list every staff member on this call. They're all going to do the same thing as a productive supervisor, as a mentor, and say, Jeff, I need a tutor for this student today. I'm walking them over there today. At the very least, I need you to make sure that there's a connection with somebody so that they come back semester after semester. And here's the real secret. It's really because I don't want to train somebody semester after semester. I just want to make sure that I'm building up their resume and building up their knowledge. So there's nothing wrong with working off campus. I listed Home Depot, McDonald's, Kroger's. There's nothing wrong with working off that. You just have to realize that working on campus, you have a mentor that cares that you are a student worker. In other words, you are a student first, and then you're a worker, okay? So, is there a job on campus? Yes, thank you, Morgan, for dropping the Career Center in there. There's a great web tool called Handshake where you can actually, it's just like a search engine, but it's primarily for on-campus employment. So, many times jobs on campus is a great way to stay networked and actually build up your resume. Nothing against your resume from high school, but the reality is that you're probably going. It's very thin. Okay, it's very it doesn't have a lot of meat to it. But the advantage of working for Morgan and Glenn and Jeff, and the list can go on, is that we're going to build a relationship with you for 2 or 3 years, and we care not just that you're getting your degree, but where are you going after that? Why are you getting the degree and moving on? And then we're actually going to link you to our Career Center and say, hey, this person's been working for me for 3 or 4 years, and here's some of what they've been doing. Can you help them build up their resume to lead them to their career? And Glenn and I just did this. We had a student that he was working for him. I needed him more, or his career path was going to field into my area more. So he basically handed him off. At the same time, Glenn calls me all the time and says, hey, I need some help. Can you find me some student workers? And I'm like, absolutely. Here's some students that actually have work study availability. So, all right. So I think those are the questions. I'll talk 1 more minute and just give you some quick time to pause. So the other thing Katie wanted me to touch on was scholarships. So I want to be very honest in terms of the scholarship process. Right now, in terms of admissions scholarships, those have kind of closed out. And what I mean by that is that most of those deadlines, not just at U of L, but at most 4-year public institutions, closed out sometime between December and January, okay? So at U of L, if you've been awarded a trustee or a Porter scholarship or something along those lines, what you're going to get is what you're going to get. Now, there are some competitive scholarships that they're still working through the vetting of, seeing who's the most competitive individual and awarding those. But 99% of those awards have already been made. In terms of external scholarships, I want you to be cautious about anything that you're doing in terms of a search engine or signing up for a website. If you're going to things such as collegeboard.com or fastweb.com, those are pretty safe websites to say, who am I? What's my race? What's my religion? What makes me unique? My mom passed away from cancer. Maybe there's a unique scholarship at the American Cancer Society that you can qualify for. These websites have the thousands of search engines that may help you kind of filter through that. However, don't ever log on to a website that's saying, hey, log on and pay me $50 and I'll help you find a scholarship. Those are mostly scams, okay? So in terms of scholarships, the other thing to realize is that just because you didn't get a scholarship your freshman year doesn't mean you can't qualify for one your sophomore year. Many times the academic departments have their own pot of money. So if you're going to be a nursing major, a business major, an education major, so on and so forth, they kind of keep their own pot of money because they know the admissions office is awarding students as an incoming freshman. In other words, how well did you do with your ACT and your GPA and so on and so forth? But those departments want to see how well you do on college level courses. So sometimes there's opportunities to say, well, you know what? I was an average high school student, but once I got to college, the light bulb clicked on and I was on Dean's list. And then the department is going to say, you know what? That other student already has some other scholarship money. This student doesn't, and we're going to re-offer them, or we're going to make them an offer from some new scholarship dollars within our academic unit, because they are going to be a nursing major, a business major, an engineering major, so on and so forth. So I got to scroll through the chat.
Mike, I think we're going to take a pause right there and pivot for a second.
Sounds good.
So I love how Mike talked about how important it was to consider an on-campus job, because we actually consider that a version of student involvement here at U of L. And on the call, we have our new director of student involvement. I keep saying new. He's not really new at this point. He's been with us for several months. But we have Quante Taylor on the call, and he's going to talk with us a little bit about ways your student can be involved and participate better in campus life.
Thanks, Katie. I am claiming new for the first year, so you can keep saying new until January. But I think Mike did a great job of talking about what involvement means to us. So when we talk about involvement, it is everything that your student is doing outside of the classroom that helps them be successful in getting that job or matriculating or staying connected to the University of Louisville. So my office tries to house most of that. I won't say we house it all, because that is not true. But we house 33 sororities and fraternities. I have 400 student organizations. We have groups that have committed 50,000 hours of community service hours. We have our student campus programming board that does over 100 free events for students every year. So we do a lot of things. The reality is that your students spend about 70% of their time outside of classes. So we're here to make sure that they're maximizing that time to develop those soft skills that help them be better in that. Mike mentioned a number of things about they're better in time management, they get better grades, and all of that comes from involvement. I love the conversations that we get to have with our campus partners that employ students, because we can teach them learning competencies and opportunities to align of like, hey, students know this. So how are we able to have some flexibility with there? One of the things that we talk about is, how do students get connected? I don't want you to feel, I don't want you all to feel, and I don't want your students to feel they have to get connected in the first week. That is not true. Involvement happens differently for every student. My staff is intentional of showing what involvement looks like over that first 6 weeks of campus, because welcome week's a lot, and I'm adjusting to being on campus. So I'm learning classes and getting around and things of that nature. So I may not be ready to get involved until week 3 of the semester, and that's okay. Most of our programs are not taking new members at that point in time either. We're giving you the taste of what it means to be a student at the University of Louisville. So in those first 3 weeks, you may be doing a little sampling of, maybe I want to be in the ukulele club, or maybe I want to try the flag football intramural team, or maybe I want to go Greek and join a sorority or fraternity. Our job is to cultivate that. So in those first 3 weeks on campus, you can get a sample of those and then make the choice of what's going on. So I just want to be really intentional of what's happening. So I will also go on the board of sharing my screen just to walk you through how you and or your students are able to connect and understand what's going on. So right now we're looking at a Google page. Correct. Yes, I think that just changed the way, so that looks good. So if you go into and just hit Engage U of L, it brings you to our campus program. So this is the hub of student involvement on our campus. If you scroll down to where it says find organizations, it takes you to a list of all of our organizations on campus. Currently, we have over 400 of them that are active on campus. So you may not want to click through those. So if you go to this search organization feature, you can put in keywords that are important to you. So let's say you look like chess. The chess club will populate there, and it'll allow you opportunity with that. Maybe your son really enjoys pizza. So the Cardinal Gaming Society has pizza written into their mission statement of their organization. So those are easy ways for us to get connected. As your students come to connect and as they go to orientation for our new first year students, they will have opportunities to connect in virtual involvement fairs in which they'll be exposed to different organizations on our campus to be able to find those connection points. We will do a number of different things to make sure they have opportunities to meet people where they are, in their residence hall, in their academic major, and outside of their campus life, and just being mindful of how do we build a bridge between those. So don't feel like they have to do it immediately. Opportunities will be at their front door. Their RAs are trained about what our campus has to offer and how are we able to get them connected to pieces that we should know. So I think it's about knowing those campus resources. I have a team of 20 people here. The RAs are a small army. They are able to get people connected. We are really big on yard signs and chalking and getting out there. So if your student steps out of their door or drives to the commuter lot or is able to be here for classes, they'll be connected to involvement opportunities just by being on campus. And that's what we pride ourselves on. I want to be mindful of time, so I'm happy to answer a few questions and or just drop the Engage site in there to provide some opportunities for people to explore.
Thank you very, very much for that. I know it was a short statement there from you, but I think you really encompassed a lot of what we do here at U of L. I know that myself as a student, like I said, I worked on campus in our intramurals department, lived in campus housing, and actually that's how I landed my full-time job with Glenn. My supervisor there really believed in me, and he encouraged me to apply for a full-time position before I'd even finished my undergrad degree. So I really, really promote the whole jobs on campus thing as much as possible because it can really help move you places in life. We've talked about it a lot tonight. I know we didn't get to cover probably everything, but if there are specific questions that you all do have, you can either put those in the chat or go ahead and turn your mic on, ask your question, and we're happy to answer them for you. We're here for you tonight.
So I have a question. So how do students get back and forth to football games and basketball games since it's not on campus? Does the university provide transportation or students on their own? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Looks like, Glenn, you're muted, but you're trying to talk about it.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to do that real quick. So actually, I just did have a good conversation with athletics today, a gentleman we work with in athletics marketing. And there are two options. There's actually for basketball, our basketball arena is downtown, and there is a couple pieces with that. For men's and women's basketball, there's free student parking available for all men's and women's home games in the Humana Garage, which is located right near the arena. But also TARC takes our students there, so they can board at the shelter at I think Cardinal Parents and ride free with a student ID. It's Route 4. It takes them down to the arena and back. So that's one option. Then when you look at football, we have a pretty strong culture of a walking to the game. It's about a mile-ish from campus. A lot of people and students who aren't on campus will park at the Floyd Street Garage and just kind of step it all the way down there. And it's game day is quite a sight to see. It is coned off and marked off, and there are large throngs of people marching towards the game. There is a ADA accessible shuttle that leaves from that parking structure on Floyd Street. If your student does need accessibility ride, that's an option, or the high majority of folks do park in all components right around the stadium and walk down there.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions tonight? That was a really good one.
Yeah, the good news is we've recorded this as well. We know this was a lot of information. So we're going to get this posted a little bit later. So if you didn't get anything written down, you want to follow back up, we can do that.
And you can always email us your questions too. Our email address is just parents@louisville.edu. That automatically gets forwarded straight to my email, so I check it all hours of the day. So I'm always happy to answer any questions you have. If I don't know your answer, then I'm happy to get you connected with the appropriate staff member that does. We try to be very mindful. We know that these questions are hot on your mind and you would like questions as soon as possible. So we always work as fast as we can to find you the right answer.
And Katie, we're doing more of these, right?
Yes, we have a couple more. So we've got these scheduled for the second Tuesday of every month, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That way, if we've got any West Coast families, they're happy to hop on too. So if you do have questions between now and then and you'd rather not send us an email, feel free to hop on the next one. You can either register again on our website just like you did for tonight, or just hop on the call. We'll have the links available on our social media for you. We really want to thank you all for coming tonight and being our trial run. We had a great time with you all. You asked several great questions, and we can't wait to meet all of you all in person.
Katie, there's one last question that we want to try to hit. It was parking. I'm going to try to grab the parking link for costs. I don't know if you want to run through, or if housing, if anybody can help combo this one, that we can explain where to park.
I just put a link to the parking page here in the chat for Hassan. But we do have student designated parking around campus, and some is actually designated to a certain residence hall as well. So if you want to just browse there, I know parking will start selling permits online, I think in July. But that's
July 1 is what I believe I read the other day. So we do have, as Morgan said, we have resident parking. So sometimes it is dictated by the residence hall that they are in. If your student is a commuter, there is a specific commuter parking pass that they can purchase that will allow them to park at our Cardinal Stadium and take the shuttle to campus. A typical shuttle ride is about 7 or 8 minutes. So it's super easy to park your car, hop on, and still make it to class on time. The shuttle just goes in a loop all around, all day long, from I believe it's about 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. If your student's on campus after 9 p.m. as a commuter and is unable to take the shuttle, they can always call our university police department. We have a great escort service that will pick them up from where they are and will take them back to their car. They'll even sit there in the parking lot until they make sure your car gets started and you've gotten on your way. They're really great. I used it a lot as a student when I was there. So that's a really great option for them. Also, after hours, so if your student is a commuter and they know that they've got a night class from 5:30 to 8:15, there are specific lots on campus that will allow your student to move there after hours to be a little bit closer to their classroom space. So definitely peruse the parking website to learn more about that opportunity. And if you have questions on that as well, feel free to reach out to us and we'll get you connected with our parking team. Okay, I think we have one last question in here. If my student is in an LLC without a roommate, could someone not in the LLC be placed in her room?
So yes, and that would likely another LLC student who joins will be placed there, but towards the end of room selection, once we we've given some time for the LLCs to fill, if another student who's not an LLC member wants to live there, then there's a possibility that they could move in that room.
But if I hear priority is going to the LLC group first.
Yeah, for a long time. We'll keep it reserved for them, and just, at the end of the day, if it doesn't get filled, then it'll be open to anyone else. And you can always room change within your LLC if you want to be closer to someone who is in the LLC, or you can do room swaps. So there's options there.
Okay, I think with that one, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for this evening. As we mentioned, we did record tonight's discussion. So we will get this saved and we'll get it uploaded probably early tomorrow morning. We'll send it out in an email to everybody that attended tonight as well. So if you did have a question about something that we talked about, you're more than welcome to go back and review it. And if we still didn't clarify it for you, just shoot us an email and we're happy to help you out. Thank you, everybody. I hope you all have a great evening.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye,
Thank
all.
Bye, everybody. Go Cards.
Bye, everyone.